War of the Weirds, where the stranger the discovery, the greater chance of victory. Last battle, Broomy brought forth a bizarre and deadly natural phenomenon known as mass mortality event. Mystics struck back with the story of circumcision, intactiveness, and foreskin regeneration. A fierce battle indeed. In the end, Mystic emerged victorious. But there was more to each of those topics. Therefore, we present to you Collateral Damage, Odd Animal Death, and the Holy Foreskin.
Hello, and welcome to War of the Weirds. I'm Broomy.
And I'm Mystic.
And we're here to tell one another strange true stories that happened in the world, and we're generally competing with each other because it's a War of the Weirds. Because it's the premise of the podcast, there is not some sort of actual feud happening in which I want to slit Mystic's throat every night.
Right.
But
yeah,
that doesn't happen.
I have a target for throwing knives and throwing axes of Broomy. So
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I've seen it. He showed it to me. It's like, isn't this nice? And I'm like, yeah, really good. Really well, really good throws too. Good aim.
Pretty. It captures the spirit of my anger, the holes and stuff in it now.
Yeah. So last episode, I told a story, not a story, it was more of a thing about mass mortality events where one species, or like a group of animals died in a very short period of time, sometimes in the millions, you know. Yeah. It's a natural phenomenon, but it's a little crazy. And then you told the story of circumcision and the people who want to regrow their foreskins. Correct.
And germane to this, I was reading a book, a memoir by a primatologist this past week, and he fed me the term, not intentionally, displaced aggression. And that is how I was trying to describe some of the anger I witnessed from people trying to regrow their foreskin. Displaced anger, like at their parents and stuff. So
yeah, totally, I agree with that. But
yeah.
But
or displaced aggression.
In doing that, we realized that we both had other topics around that we knew about and knew were interesting enough to talk about that were related to the other person's topic. So,
yeah, which typically is, we find some things interesting and similar to our own topic doing research. And this is the first time where that's like, oh, actually your topic, I know something about this or something similar.
Yeah. I have just a slideshow of penises, but you have an actual topic?
All right, so I have a couple of like mini, they're not really stories, just things that I want to share. And I'll start with one that I guess is the most similar to your stories, which was, so your stories were about mostly unexplained deaths, just like mass deaths for like a
or at the very
species.
least, it's not like rock solid. People have ideas about what happened, but it's not. It's not like that's definitely that
a specific cause that was like very obvious. And so that's like my topic, or that my first story here is. It's a mass death. I'll just go ahead and say, but it differs in that it's attributed to a specific cause. They're in Norway. There was a massacre of reindeer. This was in 2016, August 2016, where 323 reindeer were all killed instantly by lightning. Which is, so like that was a specific, cause, but they couldn't figure out why. that happened. So like how, well, they first they didn't know what caused it. The one of the keepers of the, like a ranger basically, found them. He like was just walking through doing a, checks of the areas, and found that 320-ish reindeer were just dead, like there's pictures of it. You can look online if you have the stomach for that. It's just a huge field just with corpses. It's like a Lord of the Rings field. Like it looks like the grassy knolls and big, but anyways.
It's odd. It's like you think of lightning. I don't know. I haven't been at the base of a lightning strike, but
right, yeah.
I don't think of it as covering enough area to kill that many deer, because they're not the tiniest animals in the world. So
yeah. So, well, what they think happened? Actually, it said that when the guy that found them, he said that most of like 70 of them were young. But five animals were still alive, but had to be euthanized because they were like very almost dead, but still suffering. But they had this, like, they had no obvious cause of death, so they sent, like, they basically all had autopsies, and not all of them, but people came to, like, vets came to study them and take samples, and figured that it was lightning. And they think that the reason it was so many was that during these storms and bad weather, they all just like huddle up together, and so that's like they just were all together and touching, and then like it might have been like a couple of lightning strikes on this hill, but they were like it passed through them all very quickly.
It's just like I don't know. What is the most cute image you can conjure up? Oh, a bunch of deer huddling up together to keep each other warm and safe. Yeah.
I know, yeah. I know. And I'm thinking too, like, like some parks and like zoos have like the live feed cameras and stuff. And like I think some parks, like wildlife parks, probably have some things like that, like cameras set up, and so they can, like you can see. Like imagine if you're watching this, like you're just like looking at all these little reindeer, and all of a sudden just like lightning, and then 320 of them just collapse, and it's just like you just saw a massacre.
It's just like a mortar in war was fired at the area.
It's apparently this happens sometimes with cattle. There were a couple of instances that I came across where like cattle herd like pile up together. But it's pretty bizarre, pretty weird. It was like a big mystery for a while when it first was discovered. So that's my first little thing. The next two are much shorter. So there's a thing called surplus killing, or excessive killing, or henhouse syndrome, or overkill. Usually surplus killing is what it's described as, but it's when a predator, like usually one individual predator, or if it's like a wolf pack or like a lion pride or something like that, just for unknown reasons, just goes on a massacre and kills everything. Because like in the animal kingdom, things don't really kill for sport. I guess like you would think like with a cat's instinct that a cat would kill for sport, but like it's just leftover predatory instinct, that like to kill and hunt. But if like you can look, it's so wild to see a lion who is recently fed will just like walk through a herd of gazelles and lay down, and they're all fine with it. Like it's so weird to watch this. But,
because they can like detect the non-threatening nature of it.
Yeah. And it's like, anyways. So, but anyways, surplus killing is when for whatever reason they'll go through and just decimate a population. And so there are a couple of occurrences that I'll share. In Tasmania, one dog killed 58 penguins. In Australia, a fox killed 74 penguins. leopard.
Penguins are getting the rough end of the deal here.
Yeah, penguin. Who knew that penguins were? Also,
I mean,
there was a
penguins,
story where the penguins were killed by
story,
lightning, but I guess I should have shared that too. Of course they were.
In my story, there were a bunch of dead penguins washed up ashore.
Yeah, yeah. Penguins. It's just like, it's just like, yeah. So these, like, a dog really hates penguins and then killed a bunch of them, and then a fox killed a bunch of penguins, and then God hated penguins and just sent lightning and killed them. It's just no.
From
one
dog
leopard
to God.
Yeah, dogs and God backwards. Yeah. Leopard in South Africa killed 51 sheep. Yeah, it's just, so it goes on and on. But what makes this, I mean, unique, other than like usually, you know, a animal like a fox can kill a penguin and live on it for days. And like wolves eat, or I mean, lions eat like once every 2 weeks or once every week or something like that. And because they hunt and then gorge themselves and store it in their, you know, store it as fat in their bodies. And so it's very atypical that something kills more than is necessary. But also in these instances, almost nothing was eaten. So it wasn't even like they started to hunt and then got kind of like carried away. It's like it's like they weren't even hungry and they just started massacring.
It's a psychopathic leopard.
Yeah. So it's weird. It's weird. There are some people like with wolves or creatures like in where food is very scarce, and it's very cold. People suspect that like sometimes surplus killing will just be like in preparation for a winter where they like can come back to those corpses because they're preserved in the cold.
Oh, but I thought you were saying like preparation for winter. It's like a 80s trading montage where it's like
we're getting ready for winter.
With
we're
each hit, it's
ass.
like it's your like mowing down a gazelle.
Playing with the boys. Yeah. So it's very bizarre. Let's see. And then the last thing I'll say about it is that another reason why it's all very bizarre. One last reason why it's super bizarre is that surplus killing will like deplete resources, and then it wastes so much energy of the predator, and like puts them at high risk. Because like, I mean, think about like all of those instances that I read, except for the leopard and the sheep, the prey is significantly larger than the predator, and so they are at extreme risk on these hunting ventures. So yeah, it's very no one knows why this happens. And then the last story is that penultimate story here. It's been discovered that penguins sometimes commit suicide, and whether they know that they're committing suicide or not is undecided. But sometimes penguins, like one individual penguin, will like leave the herd that's traveling, and like walk off into the mountains, like away from the water, never to be seen again. And so people are like, oh, they get disoriented, and scientists are like, no, that's not the case, because you don't know their tragic backstory of that one penguin. Yeah. Well, so what scientists have begun doing is like they'll see this happening and observe the penguin, and then they'll pick it up and transport it back to its colony, like not just back to the familiar location, but like drop it off in the middle of the colony of penguins, and it will leave again and go back towards the mountains, and then they just die in the mountains. And so people like have dubbed this a deadly wanderlust, that penguins just hear the call of the mountains and they have to go. So that's pretty weird.
That is very weird. That is bizarre. There was a story that I did not include that is super interesting, but I was sort of focusing more on the mysterious deaths
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
For my mass mortality event one, where it's just basically there was a story where like over 100 sheep just walked off the edge of a cliff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But my thing about that is I get they're sheep, so they're just not bright.
Right. Yeah, yeah. And I've heard that too, that like they're so not bright that, and they have such an instinct for like staying together and following that. So like that's why it's easy to herd them. You don't have to like wrangle each individual one. If you can just get a couple of them going, the other ones are like, okay, yeah, this is where we're going. And so people suspect that, you know, if one of them walks off a cliff or a couple of them, the others are just like, all right, well, this is where we're going. So yeah, that ties in perfectly. The sheep walking off a cliff ties in perfectly to my last little story here. So the other night, thought it'd be a good idea to just kind of take it easy, relax, have a few drinks, just kind of like watch Our Planet 2 on Netflix. And just have like a very nice, relaxing evening after a very stressful week. And I was kind of like dozing in and out. It was late and it was, you know. But in one little moment of consciousness, there's a scene where they were talking about how, you know, the ice caps are melting because it's important to have awareness, talk about climate change and stuff.
Sure, yeah.
There are, like the last 10 minutes of every Our Planet or every Planet Earth or the last episode is always going to be like, you noticed all these beautiful things this whole series. Now humans are destroying it. And it's just like very depressing, which once again,
kill all the humans.
Yeah. Which once again, it's very important. They're using their platform to advocate, you know, and raise awareness. However, there's some times where I just want to watch nature be beautiful and not feel guilty or be like, by the way, you'll never see this again because all these things are dead now. And you're like, oh, geez, okay. So anyways, watching this, very relaxed, very like half conscious, and opened my eyes to see they're doing a little special on walruses, and the banks of the islands where walruses usually go and bask and mate and all this stuff is shrinking due to rising sea levels and the ice is melting away. And so like they have like the island was a lot of sea ice and stuff, and now they just have like the physical island left. So they've had to go farther and further inland to get away from the ocean in order to find dry land, and they've had to start kind of climbing mountains. And so you have these walruses that like trek all the way up to the top of these like bluffs, and then they can sense, like their vision is very poor, but they can like sense the other walruses below them. And so when they try to like walk to join them, they don't know that they're walking off the edge. And then these walruses just tumble down the side of these bluffs and die.
You saw footage of this?
And they had I kid you not, it was a solid minute, maybe minute and a half of the montage of these walruses just walking off these cliffs and breaking their necks and like falling. They're like sliding and like flailing. And then like, you know, it does like a close up on one that like hits the ground but is still breathing and like struggling to move but is paralyzed. And it's just like, I was like, why did they include this? Who gave this the green light? Like, I'm in a very disoriented state right now, and I just opened my eyes just to watch a solid minute of this walrus death montage.
Just
like horror. We get it. It's horrific. I was so disturbed and distraught, and I was like, "What do you want me to do about it, David Attenborough? What can I do?"
It's your fault.
So
the
disturbing.
Walruses are dying.
And it's just on Netflix. It's like the second episode or something like that on Netflix. Our Planet 2. It's so graphic.
There are plenty of nature documentaries that show very graphic things.
Oh yeah, like have like there's one of chimps eating a baby impala alive. Like that happened. That's nature, and you know, but like like after it's not just like a montage to be like, God, these stupid Impala babies getting eaten. Let's watch this. It's like I don't. Oh man.
Did they put the Benny Hill music?
I know. I was like, I had to get the volume turned down, but I was like, I cannot. Like, I was like, should I turn the volume up and hear what music's playing right now? I don't think so, because I know for part of it you could hear them like making noises. I was like, I don't want to hear their anguish cries. Like, this is so horrible.
It's horrible.
So stop climate change.
The idea of a walrus falling down a cliff and being okay at the end is hilarious to me.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if he was just like,
well, that's what I was thinking. I was like, they got a lot of blubber. Maybe they wouldn't be showing so many of these falling off the cliff if they weren't going to be okay at the end. And then like it just like pans out and they're just like piled up bodies on top of each other and like.
Oh God, that is brutal.
Because they just follow each other off the cliff because they can like sense the colony down below. Yeah, it was horrible. Anyways, that's my last story that I did not consent to witnessing. And now that's in my head forever.
That is an interesting. Just I hadn't really thought of walruses going like trying to climb a thing.
Yeah.
You know, just climbing a mountain or a steep hill. You're
so hopeful watching it because you're like, oh wow, I didn't know that they were that agile on land, you know, this is cool. And then like it starts to dawn on you like, wait, how are they gonna get down?
Oh, that's how they get down. Death. Brutal.
Yeah, it was very brutal. And so that's all I got. What's your story?
Well, my story is a little less deadly.
Good. I don't think I could handle it. It wasn't.
So it's mid-January as we're recording this.
Mm-hmm.
How are you feeling on January 1st? Were you partying?
I don't remember. I know that weekend. I think we had some friends passing through, and then we like social distance, like had breakfast on the porch. So I don't think we stayed up and stuff, and
it was New Year's Day.
Yeah.
But do you know what other day it is?
I do not.
Well, it's the feast of the circumcision of our Lord, bro. Ba-boom!
Don't like where this is going.
Well, it's also referred to as the Solemnity of Mary, Mother of God, or the octave day of the Nativity of our Lord.
The octave
depending on
day?
what flavor of
the 8.
Christianity you're rocking.
Yeah.
It's the 8th day of Christmastide.
Right.
Which is the 12 days of Christmas, where that comes from.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
So, it's like, circumcision of our Lord. So.
But there's a feast?
There's a feast. There's a celebration.
I think of like, not is it the Eucharist? No, it's the Lord's Supper? Is that where you eat the bread and the wine?
Communion.
Communion. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I am religious, and I'm not good with remembering words, so that doesn't look good for me. But but like I know, like in that, like Catholics, I believe that it's literal, like the transubstantiation. Like once you eat it, it becomes the literal flesh of Jesus. And so
flesh and then blood for wine, right?
Yeah. And so when I heard circumcision feast, I was like, is this like they eat the circumcision?
No,
and then it's like, oh no, of Jesus. And you're like, wait, but does it become his body? I don't all right.
I think this celebration is more just a sort of like, hey, this happened, we're remembering it, blah blah blah.
Cut off some of his peen. Let's have a party.
Yeah. So Jesus was circumcised according to the Bible.
So
and what do they call it? The prepuce, or the Holy Foreskin. Why would you call it that, one might say?
Oh, gosh.
Because the Holy Foreskin was a religious relic.
I was gonna oh my gosh, I was literally gonna be like, all right, well, you have like the shroud that supposedly is like preserved and people like the Vatican has, and you have like some saint body parts in certain monasteries and stuff. Like, do they keep the foreskin? Does it have magical properties?
So
you were right.
Jesus was circumcised as a baby.
Yeah.
It's like a priceless religious artifact. His foreskin.
Who kept that?
Well, that's the story.
Did like the stable boy sweeping up after he left be like, what's this? And like took it to the innkeeper, and you're just like, hey.
Over the years, multiple churches have claimed to have Jesus' foreskin.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes at the same time.
Oh, well, I mean, maybe it was pieces.
I do not.
I don't know how big foreskin is.
It's baby's foreskin. Like I don't know how you're gonna have pieces in separate locations.
I really have no idea how big like.
You don't know how big baby foreskin is?
Proud to say I do not know that. That is not something that I have seen consciously.
Oh, weird. You're weird.
Yeah.
So, in Europe in the Middle Ages is when the foreskin started popping up in places as a relic.
I don't like that phrasing.
Well, the foreskin started popping up. On December 25th, year 800, Charlemagne was crowned the Emperor of the Romans by Pope Leo III. Charlemagne, around that time, gave Pope Leo III what he claimed was the foreskin of Jesus Christ. He claimed it had been brought to him by an angel while he prayed at Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. Others claim it had been gifted to him by the Byzantine Empress Irene. So he says, an angel, I was praying, angel gave me the foreskin.
It's real
Don't
casual.
worry about it, Pope Leo. Gonna slip you this under the table. Straight up, just...
yeah.
But was it authentic? Well,
how do you test that in 800?
I mean, well, obviously, Saint Bridget of Sweden had a vision that confirmed that the foreskin was somewhere in Rome. So that was definitely good sign that it was authentic.
So all I heard was Saint Bridget had a vision.
Saint Bridget of Sweden had a vision that confirmed the foreskin was somewhere in Rome. So that she's a saint in Sweden, and she had a vision, and they're like, oh, that helps us. A writing before the year 1100 called the Descripto Laternensis Ecclesia, said,
something in the church.
Yeah, I mean, I assume. Said there was a cypress chest commissioned by Pope Leo III, the guy who just got the foreskin from Charlemagne. So there was a chest placed under the altar in the Chapel of St. Lawrence in Rome, and the chest held 3 caskets. One of the caskets had a gold-jeweled cross, and that document said that within that gold-jeweled cross was the foreskin and umbilicus. I don't know what just all umbilicalness of Jesus Christ.
Why?
Sorry to bum you out so hard. I mean, it's Jesus. It's the literal body of Jesus.
Why would anyone want to I don't even really understand the preserving of the saints' bodies, or like the hand or finger bones of the saints. Like, what does it have a property? Does it heal people? Like, why would you want to have that?
Well, I mean, we'll see.
Okay.
In 1527, Charles V, the Holy Roman Emperor, had a mutiny because of largely unpaid wages to his army.
Mm-hmm.
And they looted the shit out of Rome.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things a certain German soldier stole was the foreskin of baby Jesus. But he was captured in a nearby village later that year. So he had the foreskin for a minute, but swipe or no swiping. They got the foreskin back. They brought it to Calcutta in Italy. And from that point forwards, it was revered. The church, fully backed the authenticity of this foreskin and offered a 10-year indulgence to anyone making a pilgrimage to see it. Do you know what an indulgence is?
Is it I don't know, do they give you oh wait, indulgence, weren't they the things that you could buy to get out of heaven?
To get out of heaven.
I mean, get out of hell, sorry. The get out of hell free cards?
It's a way to reduce the amount of punishment one has to undergo for their sins. Basically, it gives some lenience on punishment while you're alive and throws some coins on the good side of the scale in God's eyes, according to the Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm.
And Calcutta did become a very popular place to pilgrimage to because of this.
So
it was like Black Friday
they use
at
things
Walmart.
For tourists.
Yeah.
That's why that's why they have the saint things.
Yeah. So they get visitors.
For money. To exploit them.
Yep. I mean, sure. But also to worship them.
Yeah.
But probably mainly to exploit them.
Yeah.
But it was like Black Friday at Walmart, but for Jesus's baby dick skin.
That's I don't think I'd be rushing. I think if they're like, hey, we have a baby, even if it's Jesus, even we have baby Jesus's foreskin, then someone's like, oh, I want to see it. It'd be like, all right, you're going to hell. Why would you want to see that? You should not look at baby's foreskin. This is a test. This is a test, and you failed.
Yeah.
I had to think too about Vikings. There's I don't know. There's a lot of misconceptions about Vikings, so I don't know what's true or not. But I know they're often depicted as raiding monasteries and stuff, on the coast, and especially because they would have gold jeweled crosses, like you said, or silver and things like that. I just imagine someone they're all looking at their haul on the way back home to their village. They're just like, oh, I got this gold X or gold T or whatever, and the other one's like, oh, I got this silver platter and these candlesticks, and the other one's guy's like, what'd you get? And be like, I don't know, let me open the box. He's like, I got looks like baby's foreskin. I don't what.
He can tell. He can tell exactly. It looks like it might be baby's foreskin, maybe about 8 months.
Yeah, they're like all the other people are like, yeah, that guy was a pervert that had that. He deserved to be raided.
Yeah. So yeah. It was a popular place to pilgrimage to.
Yeah.
And around that time, there were miracles attributed to it.
All right.
Apparently, a perfumed mist at one point engulfed Calcutta.
Is that a miracle?
It's like a mist.
Or is that springtime and the flowers are blooming?
I mean, it's probably springtime and the flowers are blooming, but it's a miracle.
Uh-huh.
And freak storms, quote unquote,
also
came to town. So
came to town. You describe it like a Santa Claus.
Yeah. I mean, yes. And those apparently are miracles. Some smelly mist and some storms.
Storms came and destroyed our village.
Thing.
It's a miracle. Praise the foreskin.
It's a miracle. Praise the foreskin. So that was around what? Yeah, it was mid 1500s.
Mm-hmm.
So in 1900, there had been a recently claimed discovery of a holy foreskin in France that was getting a little traction. Of like, oh, is this the actual holy foreskin?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Which this other one in Calcutta, that's the one that was backed by the church, the actual Vatican and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
What happened was the Vatican was like, you know what? Fuck it. If you write or speak about the holy foreskin, you'll be excommunicated.
I'm on board for that.
I don't know. Seems harsh. By the way, you're going to be excommunicated soon.
Yeah.
So yeah. 1954, a monk suggested that they include Calcutta in a pilgrimage tour guide.
Mm.
And the Vatican was like, no. And they changed the punish from just excommunication to excommunication, plus we will make sure that you are infamous.
That sounds like a lot of people would take them up on that offer.
I mean, there are enemies of the church, but they would already be enemies at the beginning of it, you know? So that rather than a priest or somebody within the church actually talking about it, and then they would be herded out of the church and whatever. There were others claiming to have the holy foreskin, which, you know, the Vatican's like, yeah, right, ours is the real deal. But basically, you talk about it, you're excommunicated from the church. You don't talk about it, you don't write about it. It's a thing. They don't want to deal with it. They don't want to think. It's a weird thing now in 1900.
Yeah.
So in the late 60s, some hippies moved into the largely abandoned town of Calcutta, squatted in some buildings that they later bought. Hippie commune, baby. The Holy Foreskin was now only shown during Calcutta's New Year's Day procession. And these hippies started writing about the weird event and the Holy Foreskin for some newspapers around Rome. And the story blew up. And, you know, Vatican didn't love that.
Oh, of course.
Foreskin was reportedly stolen by a local priest in 1983. It could have been the priest who reported it stolen, sold it for a huge amount of money, but the general idea that a lot of people go with is that it was most likely some agents of the Vatican themselves who did it, so we stopped talking so much about Jesus's baby dick skin.
Good. It took them too long for them to do that. They should have done that from the beginning. They should have been like, oh, we got like all these relics. Like, all right, what do we have? Be like, we have the imperial shroud. Be like, okay, that's symbolic. That's important. Like, we have the actual cross. I don't know if that's a thing that people say they have, but and then like, all right, cool. Be like, we have the foreskin. Be like, even if this is 100% proven to be Jesus's foreskin, we should just let this one go.
But to me, I kind of disagree, because it's just like, okay, all of a sudden now, like, nobody can talk about it. That's kind of bullshit.
No,
like,
I agree. I mean, I agree there. Like, they shouldn't have changed their tune. Be like, you wanted this to be a thing, now it's a thing. But like, I'm saying it should have never been a thing in the first place.
I mean, I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
Foreskin as a relic.
Just be like, throw it
no
out.
matter the context, I'm very confused by it.
Yeah. How is it not dust by now? Or is that part of the magic? Or miracle? Sorry.
I don't know. I don't know how that... I mean, maybe it was cured. I don't know. So that's the biggest story about the Holy Foreskin. But a bunch of places, as I said, claimed to have it in the Middle Ages. In 1100, King Baldwin I of Jerusalem gave what he claimed was the Holy Foreskin to a state of the Holy Roman Empire, and a bishop was celebrating Mass later and claimed he saw 3 drops of blood bleeding through the linens on the altar.
Whoa!
Oh shit. And then that relic disappeared in 1566. Nobody knows where it went. So, as you mentioned before, there's communion.
Yeah.
Where you go up, you drink wine. And that's blood. That's Jesus's sweet, sweet blood.
Mm-hmm.
Eat wafers. That's Jesus' flesh.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I'm going to be honest, as an outsider, kind of weird and cannibalistic.
Yeah,
I understand it's God or whatever, but
yeah.
It's still kind of man as well, so I don't know.
Yeah. See, I'm Protestant, so I don't believe that it's the literal. I think it's symbolic, and I think being more of an insider, I wouldn't say all the way insider because that's the Catholic thing, but like still close. Like I think it's weird.
Yeah, but you know what's literally Jesus's flesh?
It's
the Holy Foreskin. Remember that I said Saint Bridget of Sweden.
Oh, the vision.
Had a vision.
Yeah.
Yes, of the foreskin.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in a vision that she had, she ate the foreskin in the vision. And here's a quote from her. "So great was the sweetness at the swallowing of this membrane that she oh wait, this is a quote. Yeah. "So great was the sweetness at the swallowing of this membrane that she felt a sweet transformation in all her members and the muscles of her members."
Don't like that. Don't like that she has the same physiological response as a drinking 2 Four Locos.
Yeah. And did you read ahead? Much like 2 Four Locos.
That's how they were invented. They're like, we got to recreate this foreskin deal.
Yeah, this foreskin was hot. People loved it.
Yeah.
So people. So yeah, I mean that was a vision, obviously.
Right.
But people also tasted things that were claimed to be the Holy Foreskin as a test of its authenticity.
How? How is that?
So,
how does that prove something is authentic? And that's just a bunch of weirdos.
Yes. Francesca Stravacapulau, which is a professor of ancient religion at the University of Exeter, said churches could earn a lot of money from pilgrims who would pay a lot of money to look at these things and touch them and kiss them and everything. So there was a huge industry in forgeries as well.
Oh, yeah.
As I said, a bunch of different places claimed it.
Right.
And according to Mark Schell in his essay, The Holy Foreskin, or Money, Relics, and Judeo-Christianity, he says, a properly trained physician chosen by the local priest would taste the shriveled leather in order to determine whether it was wholly or partly human skin.
I don't want to know how he has that ability.
Hey baby, want to come over to my place and taste my shriveled leather?
See if it's human or not. You have that. We have like wine tasting days with the girls, and then we'll have foreskin tasting days with the girls later. I don't know.
Foreskin tasting days with the bros. No?
Yeah.
Bro down, taste some foreskin. Feels good. Yeah, that's my story. Is the Holy Foreskin.
I think it's so weird how I guess they have to at this point, but like how the Vatican just like arbitrarily gives people authority to be like, yeah, you can taste it and tell. You, priest, do it. And he's just like, okay. Like
it's a properly trained physician, so it's literally they're getting a doctor or whatever.
Isn't the whole Vatican's thing like anti-science though? Like what's the deal?
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. There's no logic.
It's just how can we keep this all I mean, yeah, I don't want to be overly critical of the Vatican. Pope seems to be doing okay so far.
I mean, I'm fine with it.
I think they've
personally
obviously had their transgressions for the past.
Incredibly critical of the Vatican, personally.
No,
yes.
Yeah, no, I'm not a fan. Yeah, so I'm just like, how, like, I guess it's just you have to lie to cover up lies, I think. So it's just like, we have the foreskin, be like, oh, how can you tell? Be like, oh, well, this doctor can tell. And be like, okay.
I licked it and I knew it was true.
yeah, it's just like, you just like, it's like to the point where it's absurd. Like, what is just arbitrary? I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess the Vatican's not going to sponsor us.
Yeah, they were so close too.
Yeah, we were corresponding with some of the agents.
Yeah, we were exchanging direct messages on Twitter. Yeah. Now I'm gonna get blocked by Pope Francis.
Is that who's the Pope right now, Francis?
I think. I don't remember. I didn't check.
Do you know which number Francis it is? I'm gonna say 6, maybe 9.
I don't know.
Pick a number. Let's see who gets it closest.
I'm
gonna go with 9.
3rd.
Oh, okay. Who is the current Pope? Francis. Pope Francis. It doesn't say which number right now.
I mean, wouldn't that mean the first?
There's got to have been a Pope Francis before.
I guess.
Pope Francis. All right, well.
Yeah, it's just Pope Francis.
Wow.
Okay, so.
All right.
So yeah, this was a collateral damage episode.
Yeah.
Not a real episode contributing to the winners of battles. It's more just like, isn't this interesting?
Yeah.
So we'll be back, in a couple weeks, as we usually are. Every 2 weeks we release an episode.
Yeah.
And
in the meantime, be critical of any foreskins that people claim to have, and also of walruses, nature documentaries. I don't know.
Yeah, and be critical of walruses, and when they fall off, just be like, see, your technique there was not great for staying on the... You gotta
roll when you land.
Yeah. Gotta lean into it.
Lean into it. There you go.
But, yeah. Thank you for listening, and we will see you on the next one.